Cool, thanks for having me. One of the most awkward questions I ever get at events like this is, who are your competitors and how do you position yourself against the competition? And being American, I always give like an overly, very politically correct answer that we like compete with everyone and we also compete with no one. But the reality with Yelp is that that's actually true. And the reason for that is we are one of the few disruptive companies that's really creating a new market. And the market for us is really about how people access local information. So if you think about that market historically, it's mostly been dominated by the large Yellow Page companies, both here in the UK, the US, and the rest of the world. But really what a Yellow Page book is really nothing than a giant book of advertisements. And mostly consumers were making their decisions based on who had the largest ad in that book. So if you were looking for a plumber, you went to the plumber section, you saw lots of ads. Whoever had a big, colorful ad, you decided to call that plumber. It didn't really speak to the quality of that business. It just said who spent the most on advertising. And historically, when you think about disruption, we always talk about there's like a digital disruption and everything is moving from print to digital. And now we're about to experience the mobile disruption where everything is moving from digital to mobile. But the reality, the real disruption that's actually happening is not on digital or mobile, but it's actually the mind shift from moving from being an advertising first model to actually being a consumer first model. And I'll talk a little bit about Yelp and what we're doing in that space. So first, what Yelp is. Yelp's core mission is really about connecting people to great local businesses. The use case would be is like I just moved to London about a year and a half ago to help set up our offices here in the UK. I was living in Islington. I needed a place to get a haircut. I wanted to get some sushi, and I also wanted to find the best place for brunch. And what I was really interested in was not really finding out like who spends the most money on advertising in terms of a place to get a haircut, but really where do locals in Islington go to get the best haircut in that neighborhood. And Yelp's mission is really to connect people to those businesses that perform the best in that category. So how we actually do that is through user reviews. We have like a vast network of folks on the site that essentially use Yelp as their lifestyle blog, where they talk about their local businesses. They talk about their local dry cleaner. They talk about the restaurant they went to last night. And what gets really exciting about Yelp is people don't really write just 1 or 2 reviews. They're writing dozens, if not hundreds, or in some cases thousands of reviews for us for free, where they talk about their experiences. And I'll talk a little bit about why people do that and how we're able to create that vast network of people that are contributing content for us. So probably the worst thing for me to say to this group is Yelp as a company does not advertise. We've never really spent any money on traditional advertising at all. Instead, what we actually do is we invest in people. We've always been an urban-centric website since we started in San Francisco. The focus with user-generated reviews is like they're not useful unless you have a lot of them, and most of the businesses have reviews. Otherwise, you have no way of really comparing businesses. And so our motto was always to be an inch wide and a mile deep. And the way that we do that is really focusing in on individual cities. So when the company started in San Francisco, we hired our first what we call as a community manager. You can also call them essentially like a marketing director. And they were responsible for our local marketing or our local PR, just focused on the users in San Francisco. But what was most important on really what they did is they actually focused on community development. Their real role is really engaging with users on the site. Making them feel part of the special community. We've since scaled that program to roughly about 90 cities globally. And what we actually do is we throw a lot of events and parties in these individual communities. So here in London, we have 2 community managers. We also have folks up in Leeds and Edinburgh and Glasgow and a handful of other cities in the UK. And as an internet company, I think we're the only one that does this at any sort of scale, is that we throw a lot of fun parties and events. So last year, we threw over 1,000 parties globally. And what I mean by a party is what we do is in each city we operate in, we identify our most active contributors. We call them Yelp Elite. These are the people that are writing dozens of reviews, they're adding photographs, they're fixing business information for us all for free. And as a way of rewarding them, we invite them to a special party or event. Last week, we had one here in London at Hotel Chocolat, which is a chocolate shop. And what we do is we provide lots of free drink, lots of free food. It's a great chance for them to see a cool independent business or a cool art gallery. But most importantly, they actually get to meet other members of the community. and they actually can see the other people that are actually reading and responding to their reviews. And that's really, really powerful. And as a result, people feel really tied to the community, and they want to share even more. In terms of actually the content that's on Yelp, in the US when we started, we had a reputation that we're a big restaurant site, and it's a site where people are actually reviewing restaurants. But the reality is people review all sorts of different businesses. Roughly about a quarter of our content is restaurants, another quarter is shopping, and the rest covers the whole spectrum of categories that you would see in a traditional Yellow Page book. In terms of who's reviewing and who's actually on the site, unlike a lot of other social networks, we skew slightly older. The reality is Yelp is not really useful unless you have disposable income and you're looking to spend that money in some sort of shop or business. As a result, our demographic is slightly older. Most of the folks on the sites are between 25 and 40 years old, and they tend to be relatively affluent, largely because you need money in order to spend on sites. I'm getting the signal that I need to end, so I'm just going to switch on to one last topic, and then I'll close, and that's on mobile. And what we're seeing is that the power of user reviews and user feedback is even more powerful when you're able to tie that to GPS technologies and a lot of the smartphones. Last month alone, over 66 million people went on Yelp on the desktop, and roughly about 6 million people accessed our local mobile apps on the iPhone, Android, and the other platforms. But what's really interesting is in terms of our search volume, over 40% of our search volume was actually happening on mobile apps. And the reason for that is when you have like the Yelp app on your phone, it becomes enormously more useful because you can actually hold up your phone, point it at a business, and get all sorts of information through augmented reality about that business. So you can see the user reviews, you can see the hours of operation, and you can make a decision whether or not you actually want to enter that business. In terms, I'm just going to skip to the last slide because we're running out of time. And what's really exciting about Yelp for us is that we're really just at the beginning. So we are a very large internet company. We have over 66 million active monthly users of the website. However, the market and the space for just the countries we're in is significantly more vast. And on the business side is we work really great with both big brands and a lot of independent merchants. And we have over 600,000 businesses who have a direct relationship with Yelp. But the number of local independent businesses just in the countries that we're in today is vastly larger, and over 50 million of those businesses exist. And so it's really exciting that we're just really in the early stages of starting up here in Europe and some of the other parts of the world. Thanks.